In this last section on the media landscape, we'll take a look at convergence. Again, these are not new ideas, just further refinements of concepts like concentration of ownership and symbiosis. Convergence, blending the different elements of mass media into a seamless whole. There are three types of convergence: distribution, content, and hardware. Distribution. Content used to be bound by a specific channel. A unique technology was needed to receive the message. A radio show was received by the radio. You couldn't hear it anywhere else. A television show could only be watched on a TV. The same with movies, books, telephones. Most of you never lived in this world because concentration of ownership and symbiosis has been a business priority since the beginning of media business. Now, multiple mass media channels are being used to distribute content. One positive aspect of this is that more channels airing the same information makes it easier to get the information. And, as we talked about in symbiosis, cross-promotion increases the audience for a specific message. But there are negatives as well. More channels airing the same ideas means you are exposed to fewer ideas. This creates institutional selective exposure and is related to our discussion of concentration of ownership and globalization. Once upon a time, a town had 2 independent newspapers, usually a morning and an evening. It had 3 independent television stations. It had at least 1 or 2 radio stations with news departments. At least 5 local sources of information and multiple national sources were aggressively competing against each other to report the news. For both audience and advertisers, this competition was a good thing. Competition led to better quality news. Quality and access to diverse opinion led to a more educated public. And there are several readings on the website that talk about the reduction in the number of sources of information. Convergence in content means companies are no longer identified by their technology. They're now content providers instead of newspapers or film studios or networks. As I mentioned, NET has multiple content units: documentary, news, sports, education, and any piece of content could be delivered through any channel: radio, television, and the internet. The positives of content convergence are that the cost of both production and distribution drop. And for large companies, greater resources can be used to generate specific content. Where have you heard this before? Oh yeah, symbiosis. The newest area of content convergence is video games. You have successful video game titles originating as movies, and occasionally movies which originated as video games. Does this look familiar? Synergy. The negatives of convergence in content should sound familiar because they're the same as convergence in distribution: institutional selective exposure. In addition, the sources of information that you're exposed to have a greater chance of error because a single set of gatekeepers now control multiple channels, feeding information from fewer sources. In the next part, we'll look at convergence in hardware.